They're a bunch of criminals. They're a bunch of criminals. They've taken over our government. He who makes the money makes the rules. And because these guys make the money... It's the old golden rule. Yeah. And because these guys make the money, they control our government, both the Democrats and the Republicans. And it doesn't matter whether Hillary Clinton's in office or George Bush is in office, the same things are going to happen. There are minor differences, but essentially the same thing is going to happen.
Never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.
These are not opinions to be debated. These are facts to be dealt with.
The day after this happened, we were told that investigators have identified all the hijackers, even though 4 of the hijacked suspects were alive. 15 were from here, 2 from here, 1 here, and 1 here. So we attacked here, looking for this guy, even though the FBI had no hard evidence connecting bin Laden to 9/11. We were told that the most important thing is for us to find Osama bin Laden and to fight the Taliban, who were blocking construction of the Trans-Afghanistan pipeline planned years before 9/11 to move product from the Caspian Basin, an area declared by Congress to be a zone of vital American interest. And some could not think of a time when we have had a region emerge as suddenly to become strategically as significant as the Caspian. Meanwhile, Congress passed this act, which most never read, creating this agency that is not constrained by this document, doing this to Americans. But once our troops got here, our president said,
So I don't know where he is, nor do, I just don't spend that much time on him.
Howard Dean recently seemed to muse aloud whether you had advanced knowledge of 9/11. Do you agree or disagree with the RNC that this kind of rhetoric borders on political hate speech?
Yeah. Look, there's time for politics. And, it's time for politics. And, it's an absurd insinuation.
Follow up on something unrelated.
So if there was no live television coverage of the first plane hitting the first tower, how do we explain the following comment from George Walker Bush?
What was the first thing that went through your head when you heard that a plane crashed into the first?
Well, I was sitting in a schoolhouse in Florida. I'd gone down to tell my little brother what to do, and you can go ahead and sit down. Just kidding, Jeb. And it's the mother in me. Anyway, I was sitting there, and my chief of staff, well, first of all, when we walked in the classroom, I had seen this plane fly into the first building. There was a TV set on, and, I thought it was pilot error. I had seen this.
In its final report, the 9/11 Commission ignored the following significant facts and questions that conflict with that report's conclusions. Why did a third skyscraper at the World Trade Center that was not hit inexplicably collapse? Building 7 at the World Trade Center was never hit by an airplane and had no significant fire. It was 47 stories high. It was constructed of steel. Yet at 5:30 p.m. it fell perfectly straight down into a small pile of rubble.
Some people appear to have known the imminent future on that fateful day. FEMA had arrived in New York on Monday night, ready for a bioterror drill. Spokesman Tom Kenny to Dan Rather.
To be honest with you, we arrived on late Monday night and went into action on Tuesday morning. And not until today did we get a full opportunity to work the entire site other than the spot at Church and Day to which we were deployed.
Can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I had made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him, and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, you know, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we'd go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened, and I remember he was telling me how how you're gonna see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places, and there's gonna be this war on terror, which is no real enemy, and the whole thing is a giant hoax, you know. But it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be
The view that America is part of what has gone wrong in our world, rather than a force to help us make it right, has become all too common. Yes, there have been differences between America and Europe. No doubt there will be differences in the future. But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together.
For this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast, tyranny is enveloping the globe, and the United States is a shining jewel the globalists want to bring down, and they will use terrorism as the pretext to get it done. And that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this.
What is your particular feelings on 9/11 there, Jane?
Do your own research, don't just take my word for it, but let's just start with the black boxes of the planes. Every plane crash in history, you have the one thing that survives is the black box, but we've got something like 4 that they couldn't find, like just can't find the black box. There's an accounting glitch for trillions of dollars on September 10th, 2001, the day before, in the Pentagon. We've got fighter jets that are supposed to combat situations exactly like September 11th, and in previous drills, they have 100% accuracy. They get the job done. They're on the planes. They do what they have to do to avoid a tragedy like that. And but that morning they were at 0% because they were doing drills at the exact same time, and the drills were, you know, things like planes hitting buildings. So you know, there's audio online of air traffic controllers and commanders and stuff saying, you know, there's a report that there's planes being hijacked. And they're sitting there saying, is this a drill or is this real time? Then the dissenters, I mean, are just silenced. It's funny because we see the mainstream news as, you know, paid off shills, and then the alternative media as credible. Whereas someone, you know, most people would look at me and say, well, where do you get your information? The internet? You know, that's not credible. So I get that one a lot. I think they don't understand how serious it is if we don't wake up and start taking action here pretty soon, because like a lot of people look at it like, okay, well, we've had problems. We had the Great Depression in the 30s, or we've had different problems. We'll get through it, you know, somehow. But they don't realize, I guess, the gravity of what could happen with the New World Order and just the kind of violent tyranny that could take place here in the near future.
Twin Towers, they appear to have fallen immediately, as you would have buildings fall in a demolition. We've seen that on TV many times. A fire would not cause the buildings to collapse that way. Moreover, no steel building, as far as we know, has ever burned because of a fire like that. It would have to be due to some sort of prearranged explosions placed in the building that would cause the collapse and for the steel to burn the way it did, and it kept smoldering for weeks after the initial incident. So this is a strong piece of semi-scientific evidence that there was more than just a plane or even a missile hitting the Twin Towers.